Hello everyone, a very good evening to one and all. Welcome to StudyIQ IAS English. So guys, there is a picture just behind me and you can probably see this picture where there are certain coin-like structures and a person is probably giving something, and this fellow, he is having a bag sort of something, and a bag or maybe a pouch, and he is holding the pouch to collect the coins maybe. What is it indicating? This picture is basically the indication of an ancient taxation system. Basically, even in the old age also, the people used to pay the taxes, the people used to collect the taxes. Like as we all are aware that there, I think after a couple of days, 31st July is going to be the last date for the ITR file, right? In old days as well, as per the description given in NCRT written by R.S. Sharma, the people used to pay the taxes, and these taxes resulted into the growth of prosperity, the growth of urban economy, as well as the development of huge kingdoms. So welcome everybody once again, and today we are going to study about the topic which is the post-Mauryan as well as the Mauryan period society and culture, the second part in which we are going to talk about the economy, culture and taxation system, etc. Good evening Bulbul Gupta and Mantasha Shahid. Very good evening guys. You can just share this video with your friends as well, and in case if your colleagues, if your friends or anybody in family is preparing for the civil services examination, you can share this video live link with them. Now in case if you are really preparing, so you can definitely think to join our P2I batches, which are going to start very soon. The second batch is going to start for the evening time, and the last date for this batch is going to be 31st of July. So please keep that in mind, because 31st July is the date of closing of the admissions. You can take the admission in any of these three batches by using your faculty code ASR Live, which is my code, and this code will help you to reduce the fees of this course from 70,000 to rupees 29,999. All other details can be known by clicking the link given in the comment box, as well as you can also download the application for better details. Now, moving directly to the topic. So here, first of all, we will be talking about the structure of the villages. Okay. Hello Bhavesh, very good evening. Mantasha, good evening to you. Now, as far as we are looking at the structure of the villages, right, let me tell you that despite being an urban economy, we had studied in the last lecture, right? In the last lecture, we had studied that the Buddhist and the Mauryan period, that was indicative of the urban economy, because we also call it as the NBPW, Northern Black Polished Ware phase, where we saw the existence of the urban economy. Okay, urban economy. However, the historians as well as the archaeologists, they suggest very clearly that even then we had the large number of the villages. In fact, it is very clear, because as many as 400 settlements have been unearthed while the excavation was going on in the mid-Gangetic Valley, particularly in the eastern Uttar Pradesh as well as in the Bihar region. And these rural settlements, they indicated the presence of the economic as well as the cultural progress, as we all are aware, along with the demographic advantages. Now I am talking about the demographic advantages. So what is the meaning of that? So here, if I am talking about the demographic advantages, it basically means that the population, right, the population which grew along with the growth of economy, and this growth of economy, it further supported the expansion of the urban statecraft, which means, for example, the more and more number of people, they were paying the taxes, and that resulted into the increase of the income of the state. And when the state income increased, the state started expanding to the bigger areas, and therefore the expansion attracted more people to settle in that region. Got it, everyone? So we could say that during the Buddhist period and during the Mauryan period, the population of the rural as well as the urban settlements that started to grow rapidly, right? Now when we talk about the population, remember that this population was not only the rural population. This population was not only the rural population, but it also comprised of the people who were doing agriculture as well as certain non-agricultural activities. And when I am saying the non-agricultural activities, remember that the non-agricultural activities included which all things? The most important non-agricultural activities, they included the craftsmanship, okay, the crafts and the artisanship, okay. So the various craft activities such as the pottery construction, such as the construction of the tools, weapons, such as the chariot construction or the construction of the wooden palisades, houses, as well as the wooden artifacts. These things provided the source of income, the source of economic activities to the very large group of people, So as you can understand with this description that there used to be the different set of professions for the different group of people, and depending upon those different set of professions, the people and their settlements, they were divided into the different categories of the villages. Got it, everyone? The different categories of villages, if we are talking about, so as per the NCERT, there are the descriptions which we have found that there were 3 different types of the villages which existed during the Maurya and during the later Mauryan periods. Now these 3 different types of villages, they were classified on the basis of the production activity, or the economic activity, okay, economic activity. So we can say one thing, that the first type of village, that must be a typical rural village where the large number of people used to be indulged into the agrarian activities. Those people who were involved into the agrarian activities as well as the pastoral activities, they were actually settled in the small group of communities consisting of the different inhabitants, different people in that community. Most of them, they were involved in agriculture, as I told you, and their villages were headed by an officer who was named as Bhojak. The Bhojak was basically the officer who was the village headman. In which type of villages? The villages which were rural in nature, typical villages. Then there was the second type of village in the 6th century to 3rd century or 2nd century BC. The second type of village included the villages based upon the specific craft. For example, the village of Kumharas or Kumbhakaras, the village of Kumbhakaras. Okay. Now who were the Kumbhakaras? Kumbhakaras, they were the potters. So the one who were making the pottery, they were called Kumbhakara, and their villages, they used to exist separately. Similarly, we have the mention of the villages of the Charmakaras, the cobbler, Rathakaras, the chariot maker, villages of the Ayaskakara, or simply the iron smith or the blacksmith who were making the iron objects as well as iron artifacts, weapons, etc. So depending upon the different professions, the different group of people, they used to get settled in a specific locality, having the skill set for the different type of profession. They used to establish their different settlements, and such type of villages, let me tell you, these villages were actually the link between towns and the villages. Why were these acting as a link between the town and villages? It is exactly like today, if suppose there is a city, small city, which is famous for the production of a specific article. Let us assume a small city or a small village outside a huge town. If that small village, it has a certain factory, it is highly possible that some people from the city, they would be traveling to that village to purchase the production which is being done at the factory. So slowly there will be the development of market around that factory. Same thing was happening here, that the artisans villages, they were attracting the customers coming from the city area, from the urban area, and eventually there were the developments like the market was established around the crafts villages, and therefore these villages, they started having some sort of civilizational aspect, some sort of construction activities were started, which is evident from the excavation of the various towns near Varanasi, near Vaishali. For example, we have the evidences of the craft village called as Saddalput, the Saddalputta villages, that village was located near Vaishali, okay, and this village, it was inhabited by the textile weavers, So we can have the evidence that several such type of settlements used to exist, which were settled nearby the major cities, but they were actually called as the craft villages. Now the third group, that was called as the border villages. Now do not misunderstand that border villages were located at the border area, not like that. The name border villages, they suggest that suppose this is the population, in this area the population is there. Here onwards you have the forest areas, okay, forest areas. Now when I am talking about the typical rural settlements, suppose there is a river flowing here and we have the typical rural settlement in this region, then we are talking about the craft villages. The craft villages were, for example, here was the city or town, okay. Now as we are moving towards the jungle, towards the forest area, nearby the marginal region of the populated zone, there used to be the villages inhabited by the hunters, inhabited by the fowlers, inhabited by the semi-nomadic people, or inhabited by such people who had a vagabond culture. Vagabond culture means what? They did not stay at the same place. They used to roam from one place to the other place. Most of them, they survived upon the primitive activities like hunting, food gathering, etc., etc. In short, we can say that the development of civilizational aspects were missing from the border villages. Got it, everyone? So these border villages, they indicated the wildlife and the nomadic mode of existence, nomadic mode of survival in the Buddhist as well as in the Mauryan era. Right, everyone? For example, if you might have heard or might have read the NCERT, you might be aware that Ashoka and his officials particularly, especially the Dhamma Mahamattas or Rajukas, etc., sometimes they had to go to such areas where the semi-nomadic tribes used to reside. Okay, so we have the mention of the such villages in the Pali literature also. All right, everyone. Now talking about the next very important point during the Buddhist and Mauryan time period. So when we are talking about the economic structure, we are talking mainly from the 6th century BC, up to the 2nd or 3rd century BC. During this time period, what were the economic conditions? This is what we have to study here. So I hope that everybody is very much clear about the structure of the villages and the categorization of the villages. If this is clear, kindly do a thumbs up and let us proceed to the economic structure. Okay, everyone? Now, talking about the economic structure, so we are very much sure that all of us will be aware that the economy was primarily agrarian in its nature. Okay, and when we have the agrarian economy, let me make it very clear to you that the concept of private land ownership, that was absent. Okay, so concept of the private land ownership was totally absent here, and this was the indication that if there was no private ownership, so two possibilities were there. UPSC may ask the question along these lines. The two concepts were there. The first thing, private land ownership was absent. Second thing, the king was regarded as the absolute owner of all the land in the territory, and the king himself was the representative of the god, of course. However, the families used to be the practical owners. The families used to be the practical owners of the land that was allotted to them on behalf of the state. Okay, so there was a practice that the officers who were directly appointed by the state, they used to allot a piece of the land to the families, which means the allotted plots had the joint holding of the family. Okay, remember this line, the families used to be the joint land holders. Do you remember, if you might have heard about the Munda rebellion in the modern history, you can understand the concept of joint land holding, which was still prevalent in the Mundas when we come across the description about the Munda rebellion. So this practice of the joint land holdings in India, that was going on since the long time period. The meaning of joint land holding here, suppose if I am the head of the family, I have 2 or 3 younger brothers, then we are all having children, their brothers and cousins, etc. So everyone amongst us will be regarded as the owner of the land. Not a single person can claim that this entire production belonged to him only. Okay, it is like today's Hindu undivided family. It is like the same only. Apart from that, we also get the information from the Pali literature as well as from the other contemporary sources, particularly Arthashastra, that the construction of the small irrigation channels, right? The construction of the small irrigation channels, that was also a common feature which was the responsibility of the village headman. What was the name of the village headman? Bhojak. Okay. So this indicated that agriculture was given a very much priority from the side of the state as well as the officers. And why so? Because the agricultural income was the most common. Okay, the agricultural income that was the most common source of the income of the state. Income of the state. Got it, everyone? There is the mention of the term called as a shali. Okay, the term called as a shali. This shali indicates the plantation agriculture. Remember the point that the plantation agriculture was the major reason behind the increase in the production of rice. Production of rice. Okay. Therefore, when we talk about the ceremonial celebrations, when we talk about the ceremonial activities in the culture of Eastern UP and Bihar, right? Eastern UP, Bihar, Odisha, Bengal. In fact, in the complete Eastern India, we must understand that the significance of rice is very high as compared to any other food grain in the eastern part of our country. And this significance, it started because of the geographical factors, of course. However, the geographical factors, they also required the evolutionary changes in the history, and these changes came through the practices like shali, which indicated the plantation agriculture and resulted into the higher production, making it the most important food crop of the Eastern India. Alright, everyone. Second important point is that there was the existence of the direct taxation system. Okay. This direct taxation system was basically the charges or the share of production which was taken from all the rich peasants, the poor peasants, all those people who were involved into the agrarian activities. For example, the Gahapati. Okay, Gahapati. Who was Gahapati? Gahapati was the term that indicated the rich peasant. Okay, rich peasant. All right. Sometimes this rich peasant, he was also a merchant, because usually this used to happen. Usually this was a practice where the rich peasant family or the head of the rich peasant family used to, distribute the land to the different smaller peasants, and they used to cultivate it, as well as they used to give their share of production to the Gahapati, who used to sell that into the market, acting like a merchant as well as the landowner. So Gahapati is basically indicative of the initial stages of the landlordism. Initial stages of the landlordism, where the rich peasants used to become the owners of the land, and they distributed the small parts of that land for the further cultivation. Overall, the rate of taxation, that was 1/6, which was collected by the officer called as a Samaharta, or sometimes also known as Samahartri. Okay. Remember one more point, that 1/6, that was the standard rate of the taxation on the agricultural production. However, Arthashastra tells us that in case of the distress, right? Distress means what? That when the economy is in the difficulty, when the state requires more money, right? When the economy is in distress, when the state requires more money, for example, there is the flood in any part of the empire, there is a foreign attack which is required to be repelled by the kingdom, or if there is a drought in a specific part of the kingdom, in such case of the difficulty which is arising in the economy, the rate of taxation that could be increased from 1/6 of the total production to 1/4 of the total production. Okay, 1/6 is basically, you can say, 16.67%. So in normal condition, the rate of taxation was 16.67% of the total production. In case of the economic problem, the rate of taxation, it was increased from 16.67% to 25% of the total production, which clearly showed that the Arthashastra supported the management of the stress in economy with the contribution of every part of the empire, which is a principle adopted even today in the economic practices. All right, everyone. Now let us watch the taxation system in a little bit of detail. But before that, can you please tell me that did you understand the complete system of the economic distribution and the production in the Mauryan age particularly? Everyone? So should we proceed to the taxation system here? Now, if we are talking about the taxation system, let me tell you that the Arthashastra provides a very extensive detail about the taxation system, and this portion of the chapter in Indian history is the inspiration behind the direct taxes which are levied even today. Therefore, it is very, very essential for a future civil servant to understand the complete mechanism of the Mauryan period taxation system, so that we can have the complete understanding of the basics of our Indian taxation methodology. Got it, everyone? So let us start. So first of all, let me tell you that the state not only collected a part of the agricultural produce, because that was obviously normal. So agricultural produce was not only taxed. The other components of the economy, they were also attracting the taxation. For example, the water taxation, octroi duty, toll taxes, custom duties, all were the different types of the taxations. Got it, everyone? What is the meaning of the water rates? Do you remember in your basic NCERTs, it is obviously given that in the Arthashastra, the state used to charge some extra taxes on the irrigation sources also. This type of taxes in the upcoming period, not during the Maurya period, in the upcoming period also, they will be levied. But it all started during the Mauryan period. Such taxes were called as Udring. Okay, Udring tax, that was the irrigation tax. Apart from that, the octroi duty was there. What is the meaning of octroi duty? It was called as chungi. Even today also we used to hear this term called chungi. This term was basically indicative of the tax which was collected at the entry point of the urban area. So when a product that was coming from a long distance and it used to enter the town area, at the town boundary, right, they used to charge a tax called as octroi. Then there were the toll taxes. Okay, the toll taxes. Toll taxes included the variable taxation system which was levied upon the long distance travels of the goods and products. Even today also, when you are carrying a lorry full of a particular goods, industrial products, on certain locations you have to pay the toll taxes. However, in modern scenario, we are also paying the toll taxes when we are simply traveling with the passenger cars as well. But in those days, only the products loaded with goods and other the carriages loaded with the products and other types of goods used to pay the toll taxes. Apart from that, the custom duties were also charged. Those who understand the meaning of customs duty, let me tell you, the customs duties were basically charged upon such goods which were imported or exported. So at the boundary of the kingdom, it was usually charged usually charged upon those goods which were purchased from the other kingdoms. That was the customs duties. Some other taxes were also there. For example, the taxes were also collected on the forest produce as well as from the mining of the metals. All right. So if you remember, the Akaradhyaksh, so they used to be in charges. The Akaradhyaksh, they used to be in charges of the collection of the taxes from the mines, and at the same time, the land, the forest area, that was also subjected to the taxes. The people who were collecting some forest produce and they were selling it in the market, also they were supposed to pay the taxes. Salt tax, popularly known as the Lavan Kar, Lavan Kar, that was an important source of revenue and it was collected at the place of extraction, so where the salt was produced. Remember that the salt was produced not by the sea salt. Remember that it was not the sea salt we are talking about. We are talking here about the rock salt. Okay. Similarly, there was an additional tax called as the Vartanam. This tax was collected on all the foreign commodities imported in the country. So if you are importing any foreign product, everything was supposed to pay a custom duty. So this custom was called as Vartanam and Vartanam. And those businessmen, who imported it and they obviously utilized this product, sold it into the market, they attracted some profit on it. So they had to pay the additional tax called as Dwarodaya. This tax was actually paid by the businessmen, who was using that product, or anybody ranging from the dancers, musicians, actors, dancing girls, all these things, all these people, they used to pay Dwarodaya tax upon the imported products and its uses. It is like paying the double taxation upon the imported goods. Why was it very useful? In first place, this used to provide the additional income. In second place, this also reduced the import of foreign goods and therefore promoted the domestic production of such type of products. For example, let us talk about any exotic fragrance, scent, right? India was a production center of the excessively greatly in demand perfumes. However, some of the people, they used to import the perfumes as well. So in case somebody is importing a perfume, then the perfume, it was already charged at border. They used to charge that Vartanam. However, suppose after taking the consideration of Vartanam, this became of 100 rupees. Originally it was 50 rupees. Then Vartanam was charged. The price is 100 rupees. However, when it will be sold in market, then this will attract another tax called as Dwarodaya. So that will be the example of Dwarodaya and Vartanam. Apart from that, the incomes earned by every professional, dancer, musician, actor, dancing girls, all had to pay the income tax. All right, everyone. Then suppose if there is a businessman who was earning excessive profit in his or her business, then that excess profit tax was also collected, as well as the sales tax that was levied on the sales, and the purchase of the buildings was also subjected to tax. Not just the sales and purchase tax. Remember the point. If you can recall it, let me tell you that the taxes were known as Klipt, Klipt and Upklipt. The same name will be continuing even during the Gupta period. Okay. So this was basically the sales and purchase tax during the Mauryan and in the subsequent time periods, and in the Upaklipta we will be having the additional surcharge on the sales and purchase. So different types of the taxes were levied upon the sales and purchase as well. Gambling, right? Gambling, jua, that gambling was also centralized. Remember that gambling was under the control of a state. In today's term, there are lots of betting operations going on during the cricketing season or football season. Various people are putting their bets on the different favorite teams, etc. However, in India, the betting is currently not state regulated. It is considered as an illegal operation. But during the Mauryan period, during the period of Lord Buddha, the gambling was also under the central regulation, right? And there was a tax on the gambling, right? Gambling as well. Remember that gambling was also having the taxes, as well as the people who were, right, the people who were the pilgrims, they had to pay the tax called as a yatra vetan, and the gambling tax was called as a dyut kara, right? The gambling tax was called as dyut kara, okay, dyut kara, right? So these names are very, very important for the purpose of examination. Now coming to the other parts, so those people who were very rich, they were charged excessively. Even in the modern economy also, we have the similar practice. If you remember that higher is your income, higher is the rate of taxation for you, isn't it? Yes or no, everyone? I hope that everybody is aware that if you are earning more and more income, you have to pay the higher rate of taxes. In that time as well, the affluent people, they had to pay the higher taxes as compared to the poorer people. And those people who were suffering from the disease, right? Those people who were suffering from the diseases, or those people who were the minor, or who were students, they were exempted from the taxes. They had no such obligations to pay the taxes. Right, everyone? And not just that, every revenue collector, remember that there were three major officers related to the land revenue collection and the other form of taxes collections. Here let me tell you, Samaharta was there, okay, Samaharta, Sannidhata was there, and Sangrahitri was there. Sangrahitri. Alright, Samaharta was the general in charge of all the tax collection, the head or the chief revenue collector. Sannidhata was basically the in charge of the royal treasury, royal treasury. Samaharta, what did I tell you? The chief revenue collector. And Sangrahitri, he was the one who collected the revenue, right? Collected the revenue at ground level. Okay. So we can say that there used to exist an extensive mechanism of the tax collection during the Mauryan as well as the Buddhist period. And not just that, the taxes were not only based upon the revenue, based upon the profession, or based upon the income. The taxes were also levied in other capacities. For example, if we are talking about the uncultivated or cultivated land, there used to exist the normal taxes. For example, the land, the standing land called as Sita, okay, Sita, right, this used to be the land which was, right, left uncultivated, okay. Remember that Sita exactly means the lines of the furrows. The lines of the furrows, the plowing actually creates the line on the land. That plow line is called as Sita. So this tax were basically, right, paid even on the standing lands. Suppose if there was another activity going on that, right? Now religious taxes or religious offerings, they were called as bali. The taxes which were paid in cash, they were called as kar, and the vanik path basically, remember chungi, okay, vanik path, that was the standardized name which is mentioned in the Arthashastra as the toll tax, right? So chungi was only charged upon the entrances of the town area, and the toll tax was charged anywhere where you were carrying the goods and products. Apart from that, some taxes were very seasonal taxes. They were charged only during the specific months of the year. For example, the several taxes like Bhadra, Padika and Vasantika. Okay, Bhadra, Padika and Vasantika, these used to be the taxes which were seasonal in nature. Alright everyone. Apart from that, the non-tax revenues consisted of the produce of the sown lands, profits accruing from the manufacturing of the oil, sugarcane, as well as the beverages, right? All these things were also subjected to pay the taxes. Alright everyone. So I hope that everyone who is watching this session live must have understood the exact nature of taxation system as well as the variations in the taxation system during the Buddhist and the Mauryan period. We all can understand very well that this extensively and intricately designed taxation system led to the earning of the state to grow many folds, and when the earnings of the state started to grow, the state became rich, powerful and prosperous, which is clearly visible in the features like art and architecture, in the features like huge permanent army, or in the features like the construction of the monuments during the Mauryan period. Okay everyone, I hope it is clearly understood by everybody. Is it yes or no everyone? Kindly reply it yes or no. And if you have understood this, let me tell you that even the practices like marriages, remember that the marriage occasions, right, and sacrifices as well as the special kind of gifts, they were not subjected to the tax. However, the liquor during that celebration or the liquor during that marriage ceremony, right, they were subjected to the tax of 5%. And anybody who did not pay taxes, they were fined. They were charged with the fines by the state, and as much as 600 pan. Those who do not understand the pan, the currency, okay, the currency during the Maurya period, that was called as pan. Remember that. Okay everyone. So that is basically the nature of taxation, nature of economy and nature of the rural structure during the Buddhist and the Mauryan period. In the next lecture, we will be studying about the art, architecture and sculptural development during this time period, and also we will try to understand the Central Asian invasion on the subcontinent, which resulted into the establishment of the new dynasties like Shakas, Kushanas, etc. So till then, thank you so much for watching this session live. You can also share this session with your friends in case if they also want the extensive and detailed conceptual clarity for the subject of ancient history. I hope that all of you, those who are watching it, all of you are actually loving this session, because I can only understand your love through the likes and the shares that you are doing in your circle. So keep spreading this love, keep spreading this affection towards the subject. Together we can definitely make the ancient history our strongest fort in the examination. So guys, in case if you want dedicated guidance for the 2024 Civil Services examination, do not forget to check our batches of the prelims to interview, that is P2I batches, which are going to end or going to close their admissions on 31st of July, and these batches are the evening batches available in the English and the Hindi medium, having the various features which are exclusive here, like descriptive coverage of the prelims syllabus, mains syllabus, as well as the current affairs program is also there. Not only that, if you are suppose able to clear the prelims examination through this program, then the entire mains preparation will be done at the StudyIQ campus here in Delhi NCR. You will be given the free accommodation, stay and food, etc., along with the classes, all at the cost of StudyIQ only, right? So guys, that is a very great opportunity for any student who thinks that he or she is truly deserving, but due to the lack of affordability, they are unable to start their preparation. So we are offering the most affordable and the most qualitative program for all of you. So you can use my faculty code ASR Live to get enrolled in this batch at a very nominal cost of rupees 29,999. So let's meet in the classes tomorrow. Till then, take care everyone. Bye-bye and have a great day ahead. In case if you want the content of this class, you can simply scan this code right behind me, or you can join my Telegram group here at this particular address. So thank you so much for watching it, guys. Let's meet tomorrow. Till then, bye-bye and Jai Hind.